All right, welcome in right before St. Patrick's edition of the program. Green and white behind us. It is another edition, of course, of BloodHorse Monday. His name is Sean. My name is Louie. 50-point preps largely in the books. Yeah. We'll have a couple overseas. The Lexington, of course, a 30-pointer at the end of all this. But boy, oh boy, there's a 20-pointer. 20-pointer at the end there.
Unless they change something.
How would I, you know what? If I'm going to bring numbers around Derby in front of Sean Collins, I need to be better about bringing numbers in front of Sean Collins about Derby. That is what it is. We will talk with Riley Mott, speaking of the Derby. Incredibolt, the winner there in Virginia. Plenty to talk about as far as the racing at Colonial. Of course, we'll preview the upcoming races, both at Turfway Park and Fairgrounds ahead of their big days, man. Getting into those 100-point preps for sure. But before that, we'll talk with Olivia Newman as well. Get the final votes on the OBS sale down there in Florida. Our good friends down at OBS, really appreciate them and all the support of our program since our inception just over a year ago. Sean, what makes you a little Incredibolt over the weekend? Horse that you've liked,
yes,
gets off that Gulfstream Park surface. And what's funny about all of it to me, Sean, is when you think of tracks that lead into good performances in the Kentucky Derby, Gulfstream's near the top.
Mm-hmm.
You come out of the Florida Derby, you come out of the whatever part of their trail, you got a shot in the Derby for sure. Santa Anita comes up as one of those tracks. Then we get like Keeneland, and we kind of don't know if horses are going to like both dirt tracks. They seem to be a little bit different that way. But then he goes to Colonial, and boy, he looks like the horse we saw in the Street Sense. You love this horse.
Yes.
So I'm sure you were quite happy because you were there, number one, but number two,
yes,
that you got to see this. You took it all in person. What was it like?
Yes, it was a pretty fantastic win. I was very pleased with it. Anyone who was watching the show back in October knows I was pretty impressed with his performance in the Street Sense Stakes. He was my number one Derby horse coming out of that. He has retaken that position after this weekend. I just thought that he looked incredible. There was a point in the top of the stretch where I was like, all right, well, it looks like we're going to have like a 6-horse fight for the lead. And then by the time that I finished having that thought, he was 2 lengths ahead of everybody, really kicking away. Yeah. So I mean, Jaime Torres told me the second he got off the horse down at Gulfstream, he just wasn't getting a hold of that surface. We saw him go right back into the work tab. It didn't seem like there was anything physical from that perspective, analyzing it, that could have potentially led to it. So I think that was just the truth. He just didn't like Gulfstream when he was there for the Holy Bull. And he bounced back in a big way. He seemed to love Colonial. We know he likes Churchill Downs, but this was the horse that we saw in the Street Sense last year. And the thing that I liked the most about it was he wasn't as far back.
Correct.
He was sitting closer behind the pace. He was kind of more last time in the Street Sense, or 2 starts ago in the Street Sense, he broke from the outside. This time he was in the more direct kickback. He was between horses. He had to kind of fight his way out in the stretch. And once he got into the clear, that same turn of foot that was there in the Street Sense was there, despite sitting closer, despite getting the kickback, despite being in between horses at the top of the stretch. That same kick was there. I don't have any concern about him going 1.25 miles. Jaime Torres also told me after this race on Saturday that he thought that another part of the Holy Bull might have just been, in addition to not getting over the track, just first off the layoff. He said sometimes this is a horse that could take a while to get going. Well, he's going now, and he's going full steam ahead to the Kentucky Derby here. It'll be interesting to hear from Riley in a few moments when we have him on, whether or not they are going to just train up for the 7 weeks.
Plenty of points.
Yeah, going in. He's got the points. He's got 60 points. That historically should be more than enough to get in.
And frankly, his next run would either be on 3 weeks rest or 3 weeks rest running into the Derby.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so my sense is, before we talk to Riley, he's going to the Derby.
Yeah.
That's you win the Street Sense, you win this race. That is plenty of evidence that you're ready for the Kentucky Derby as far as this point system is concerned. And so I do think we'll see him in Churchill next. That's his next.
Yes, I think so. So it'll be nice to hear from Riley on that perspective. But yes, I really liked the performance this weekend. What do you think of it?
I have no idea what to do with 1-term prep races for the Kentucky Derby. It's the only thing I would say. Now,
I would have more concern if we hadn't seen the Street Sense.
I agree with you. Yeah. Here's the other part: is 1 1/8 is still 1 1/8. So think back to 2020. Tiz the Law didn't lose the Kentucky Derby because it was 2 turns. He lost it because Authentic was just better that day.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't anything that Tiz the Law coming out of 1 1/8 in the Belmont over 1 turn couldn't do at Churchill Downs. No, it's not that at all. He was fine. I think that about Incredibolt. I don't know that he's at Tiz the Law's level. I want to be very clear, but that part, I'm not worried about the 2 turns as far as all of the things. I'm forgetting the breeding at this point. I'm sure you could help me out with that. But
Bolt Dioro,
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So yes, I mean, just all of the, all of the positives with him, I think is a real thing for him. And so, yeah, I'm very much not worried about Incredibolt moving forward as far as his numbers and going 2 turns and going a mile and a 16th and that kind of stuff. It is so fascinating to me, though. And if he didn't have the street sense, this is the other part. So he's got the maiden win. He's got the street sense at Churchill Downs. Clearly doesn't mind the surface there.
Mm-hmm.
The Gulfstream Park thing bothers me. I don't know why, Sean. I don't know why it bothers me, but I'm going to tell Riley it bothers me. So he's going to find out too. But it is so interesting. And I'd love to know, because he's young in his career, less than 1,000 starters at this point, is Riley Mott. It's an incredible thing to say outside. Oh, not even 1,000 starters. But how much work it is to get a horse to the gate at all. And I'm like, oh, only 1,000.
And he's got 2 grade 1
right,
wins. He's got a horse going to the Kentucky Derby.
I guess that's good. But yes,
Cup starter last year.
Like, it's so fascinating. This game is so complicated.
Yeah.
That it Incredibolt. I mean, like you said, Bolt Doro, awesome again on the mare side. If we didn't have those 2 wins at Churchill and all of his best performances were at like Ellis, how would you feel about Incredibolt?
Oh yeah, I would be concerned.
Right.
But
then he jumps up and wins this race, because we get Lucas winning this race last year. Yeah. None of us knew what to do with American Proms. Like, none of us had any idea what to do. But you're right. We have that street sense, and it really does feel different with Incredibolt, like, because of that, I think.
Well, and the Holy Bowl was so bad that you have to think that there was something had to cause that performance. Right. And it seems like it was the track itself, him not liking it. Maybe it was the first start off the layoff. But it just seemed like that was such an outlier compared to everything else that he's done. To see him immediately switch tracks and bounce back in the way that he did is a huge plus in my mind.
Sure. Where
you can kind of just throw the Holy Bowl away. Now, I know there'll probably be a lot of questions as far as the quality of horses he beat in this race. I think that will be the thing that probably most people are going to point at as we head toward the Kentucky Derby. But my counter argument to that is, when you win the way that he did, it doesn't really matter.
The job is to win the race.
Yeah, he won the race. That's right. He did it with ease. If you're questioning the quality of horses he beat, it's not like he beat them by a head. No, he blew the doors off.
Do you know the great thing about horse racing compared to, say, college football or something? It's not a beauty contest.
Yep.
Do you know who won a bunch of close races? A lot of great horses.
Exactly.
Idiomatic a couple years ago never pulled away, and she won a bunch of graded stakes. And I would gladly own Idiomatic. And yes. I'm sure someone like Riley Mott would gladly train someone like Idiomatic, but I'm sure he's also very glad to be training Incredibolt. He's nice enough to join us here on the program. Is Riley Mott, Mr. Mott, Mr. Riley. How are you, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, all good. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Always. Yeah, these are the fun ones. Hey, your horse won a Derby prep. Come on the show. It makes this job a little easier, Riley. How you feeling?
Yeah,
man? It's gotta be great, huh?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been a fun past couple days. We were had Colonial circled on our calendar ever since the flop in the Holy Bowl, and just to come back and redeem himself, so to say, and run as big as he did. It was really gratifying.
All right, so you already brought it up. I'm just gonna go. Let's get this out of the way. Let's just get it out of the way. First things first. How did he come out of the race? How's Incredibolt doing?
Yeah, super. He traveled from Colonial yesterday, late morning, arrived early to Palm Meadows this morning. He walked the shed, had a bath, jogged up good. Everything looks well on him. So, just everything you could ask for up to this point.
All right, so you say everything you get asked for. The Holy Bowl, though. Come on, buddy. Let's be real. Okay, that happens, Riley. What goes through your mind? What's going through your mind as that race is happening, and in the immediate aftermath? I know he was there, and Jaime's like, look, he just didn't take to this track. Do you have to just let those things go? Is it just part of the training job?
Yeah, you really do. I mean, you have to have a kind of a short-term memory when something like that happens. You want to learn all you can from such a negative experience. But as you said, a lot of anticipation leading into the Holy Bowl. A lot of people came to town to watch him run, and we're going down the backside, and he's kind of losing contact with the field, and I'm just sitting there just totally perplexed and confused and concerned, really. Like, we know he's a good horse to our standards, and he works like it. He had run like it. So just to have such a strangely run race on his part was concerning, but very luckily he came out of that race super, not a pimple on him. And I think we were just kind of chalking it up to not liking the surface, although most most good horses, if they dislike a surface, they're still not going to get beat 25 lengths. So, I really needed to see what he did at Colonial on Saturday. So that in particular was, really gratifying from my standpoint.
Yeah, how much does that really ease your mind? Because like you can come out of the race and Jaime's saying it didn't feel like he's getting a hold of the surface. You check him in the days after the race, there's nothing physical with him. So you can kind of build the excuse up in your mind that it was that, but until you actually see him come back at a different racetrack and run the race he did on Saturday, you got to be wondering the whole time, like, is it actually that? Maybe he just didn't take the step forward from 2 to 3. How much did yesterday or 2 days ago really put your mind at ease?
Well, it really did. I was telling a couple buddies, like I really had kind of PTSD from the Holy Bull. So, I mean, even just to, in the first quarter mile of the Virginia Derby, just seeing the horse into the bridle, in the mix right behind the pace, I just kind of, exhaled a little bit because he was actually, involved. So, and as they turned for home, he's in contention, and then when he came up the rail as he did and pulled away, I mean, that was just just really, really satisfying for me.
Torres was talking with me after the race about him being closer up to the pace than we had seen before. In the street sense, he was way back. That maybe was due to him coming out of the slow start, but we saw him start off the Holy Bull in the back of the pack as well. Jaime was telling me that the plan originally for the street sense had been to be a little bit more involved before that break. How does it feel seeing him, be successful from far off the pace in the street sense, but then now also showing the ability to sit right off the pace? How much confidence does that give you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, makes you think the horse can go to plan B or C if plan A doesn't work out. As you said, he broke, half a step slow, and the street sense got hung a slightly wide into the first turn. So we were, sort of up against it. And not only that, they set a bit of a slow pace that day. So the fact he was able to close strong was nice to see. When he broke his maiden, the start before the street sense going a 1-turn mile, he actually, sat right up in the pocket, and it was a bit of a similar trip to as he had in the Virginia Derby. So in the paddock with Jaime a couple days ago, I was just like, I envisioned this horse sitting a similar trip in his maiden race, or today as he did in his maiden race, and he's like, I'm thinking the same thing. So he went with it. He kind of squeezed the horse out of the gate, put him in contention, and the horse really just kind of took Jaime wherever he wanted to go, took him to all the spots that opened up for him. And I think he kind of smacked him on the shoulder one time, at the quarter pole, but then he basically just hand rid him to the wire.
That's the good stuff for sure. Trainer Riley Mott with us here on BloodHorse Monday. Sean Collins, Louie, Rabaut hanging out with you. Talk us through the decision process after the Holy Bull. Was there a moment where you thought maybe we just got to blow this thing up and try something else? What led to landing at Colonial in the Virginia Derby in particular?
Well, the timing of it was ideal. We really thought, having run several horses at Colonial over the last year or two, we thought it was a surface that was akin to Churchill, which we know he likes, as he's 2 for 2 over it. So for me, really the surface and the timing were the two major factors. I kind of had even forgot when we were mulling over the options that it was a 1-turn mile and an 1/8.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But like once we started talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That didn't really concern me, as he broke his maiden at a 1-turn mile. So it's kind of run in a similar fashion. So, So, we were anticipating and hoping he loved the surface, and that's obviously just a guess. We're using our crystal ball to,
Sure.
make the best decision. But it was, a great thing to see him, finish off the race the way he did.
Now, in the lead up to the Kentucky Derby, you're going to have a lot of media people like us ask you about that 1-turn race leading into the Kentucky Derby.
Mostly me.
Yes.
Yeah, less you, mostly me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it is a mile and an 1/8, but people are going to pick apart everything, and they're going to ask you, can he win a 2-turn mile and a quarter off a 1-turn mile and an eighth race. Obviously, we saw him handle the 2 turns before, so it's a little different than like when we were looking at American Promise last year coming out of this race. What's going to be your counter to that question when people ask you about the 1
Tell me what's up, Riley.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of have to look at his form, really. I mean, it's kind of apples to oranges comparing, him winning a 1-turn maiden to a 2-turn grade 3 as a 2-year-old, but he checks the box that says he's won 2 turns at Churchill Downs. As far as people wondering about his fitness level and things like that, I mean, he's a very athletic and handy horse. He doesn't carry a lot of extra unnecessary weight. He's pretty like lean muscled and just a very athletic type. So he gets a lot out of his training. His breezes are very strong. I mean, he does everything very easily. And not only does he like breeze generally very well to the wire, but his gallop out and double gallop out and even his, triple gallop out. You don't hear that term very often, but I think those latter parts of the works and the gallop outs are just ultra important and tell you a lot of the story. So from what I see from him in the morning, in those workouts and those gallop outs, I mean, he just goes and goes and goes, and he'll just tick off like 14 seconds, down the backside galloping out. So, he can get a lot out of his works. He's had, 2 races, which it's kind of an unconventional spacing between races, the 7 weeks, but you'll often see a lot of these horses have 2 preps before the Derby. So I think that's not, a foreign thing to a horse. And, it'll be up to me to try to train the horse, the way he needs to be trained leading into that Derby off of, some spacing between the race. And, hopefully we can keep the horse happy and healthy in the meantime.
So are we definitely saying that he's going to train up into the Kentucky Derby here, and you're not going to look at something like the Bluegrass or the Lexington or anything for him?
At this time, our plan is to train up to the Kentucky Derby. I know the numbers didn't come back super strong, depending on what speed figure you look at. But to the eye, he ran a big race. While he came back in good shape, a guy could look kind of foolish running him back in 3 weeks, and then him running poorly. This game is, hindsight's everything in many different situations. So, while he now looks like he's doing fine, you could always run the horse back on short rest and him kind of throw another clunker. So, as I said, just based on the horse as an individual, I feel extremely comfortable training him up to the Derby with the spacing we have.
Sub 148 mile and an eighth is just fine. That's a 2-0. That's essentially a 202 furlongs. I'm not kidding. No, I think speed figure is fine. Whatever. That's a 202.
Yeah.
That's Derby time. And we're talking in mid-March. No, whatever.
Yeah, and you got to look at the weather that Colonial had right too. It's snowing on Thursday.
Snowflakes the size of Rhode Island, dude. It was insane. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we ran in a 2 other then on Thursday, and that was like the peak of the poor weather. And Travis Stone, like, they broke from the gate down the backside, and not only him, but and I don't think anyone else even realized they had broke from the gate. So, for them to experience that type of weather and for the track to be, as good as it was, 36 hours later, I mean, was pretty impressive, I thought.
So you mentioned earlier that he has returned down to Florida to your base at Palm Meadows. You're also usually based at Churchill Downs. They start moving back into Churchill Downs tomorrow. When can we expect him to make the journey back up to Kentucky?
So I think we're going to do the bulk of our training and heavy lifting down here in Florida. I mean, the month of April down here in South Florida is exceptional. We get a very consistent track down here at Palm Meadows, and the horse, does very well down here. We got him in a very good routine, familiar surroundings. And, in a perfect world, we'd, as I said, do most of the works down here and then about 2 weeks out, ship them up to Churchill, let them gallop over the track for a week, and then have our final workout over the Churchill surface, and then God willing, we'll get them to the Derby gate in good shape.
There you go. I'm always amazed, Riley, that any horse makes it to the starting gate in our sport. But, I wanted to ask you something. I have never asked a trainer to do this, but you used a term earlier on that I'm not sure all of our audience will know. You talked about a gallop out, and you talked about a triple gallop out. Can you kind of explain what that is, what you're looking for as a trainer, why that matters, et cetera, for our audience?
Yeah, so I mean, for example, if a horse is working a half mile, a lot of horses can, breeze in 48,
Sure.
49. On paper, it looks like a good work, in the program, the timed workouts that they post. But I think when you gallop out 5/8, a furlong after the wire, and then, 3/4, and then 7/8. I mean, that really gives you a good indication on a horse's fitness level. There's, every horse is a bit different. There's some that they just kind of are very workmanlike and do everything they need to do after they pass the wire. They're kind of like, okay, I'm done. So we'll just kind of throttle down a bit. But then there's others that, they just they'll run until you tell them to stop, so they just kind of click off good eighth of a miles after the wire. And and I think in particular when you're preparing a young horse and preparing them to race, for the first time, for example, you really pay attention to those double gallop outs, because they can really give you an indicator on a horse's readiness and overall fitness level.
Last one for me, Riley, and we've noticed it up here, especially at the late summer with the Kentucky Downs meet. So many people sort of building their horses for the purses there. This colonial thing in the spring, how do you find it? And how is it? What's it like shipping in for boutique meets like this?
It's really fun. I mean, there's a super atmosphere. I'm partial to Colonial in the state of Virginia. My wife's from about an hour away from Colonial in a place called Charlottesville. So we had a ton of family and friends there on Saturday. We ran in the Dominion Derby last fall and with World Beater, and he won, and we had a large crowd for that. But I mean, the track itself, Colonial's it's a beautiful little spot, kind of a diamond in the rough, and it's a great place to train a horse. It's nice, big circumference track, a mile and a quarter, I believe. So that's a good spot to train a horse, I would say. Turf course, obviously very good. And they put on a very good show. They had I believe like a record crowd, record attendance on the day. There was traffic going in and out, and you could just tell there was a lot of good atmosphere and vibes going on Saturday.
You mentioned family there. Obviously, you are the son of Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott, who won the Kentucky Derby. Got to let us know here if we set the record for the longest into an interview you've gone without somebody mentioning that.
I wasn't planning on it, Riley. By the way, I was not planning on it.
No,
I wasn't going to do it. No,
I had
that's
my
a stopwatch
here.
I'll be over it.
But obviously, you are preparing for your first Kentucky Derby here with Incredibolt on your own, but you have seen what the process is like through your dad's side. What have you learned from him, and how excited are you to now get the first opportunity here on your own?
Well, that was a good question. I don't like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, just kind of being around his stable and growing up in it, you sort of have like a blueprint of how you want to approach things. Everybody kind of has a different theory on how to get a horse to a certain race or whatever, but I think the main thing is you just want to sort of stay out of the horse's way. I think there are times when although I am the trainer, you could almost insert yourself into the equation a little too much, if that makes sense. Like, maybe overthinking things, making, decisions that aren't necessarily following your gut, second guessing yourself at times. So, I think you really just, as I said, it's really important to follow your gut. Don't get, emotionally too high or too low. Just kind of, look at the horse, make sure he's happy, make sure he's healthy, and have a plan. Of course, I think that's very important. But you just don't want to do anything too silly, I guess.
Now, last year, your dad won the Kentucky Derby for the second time, but the first time he got to actually watch his horse cross the wire in front. I'm sure you were close by to him as that moment was happening. Just what was it like seeing him have the experience of winning the Derby?
Yeah, that was just like, such a cool out of body experience. A little different, obviously, now that I'm like on my own and have my own stable. So, I was there strictly as, a son figure. And that was just really cool. I mean, obviously, my dad took a lot of gratification in finishing first, and not only was it special for him and his team, but the Godolphin team and Junior Alvarado, which the three of them have been an unbelievable team over the last decade, I guess it seems like. So yeah, that was just not only for my dad personally, but just like everybody involved. It was just really an amazing time.
Now, Jaime Torres told me last year after he won the Street Sense that you guys were kind of having the running joke that you had better success together when you both weren't present at the racetrack. Because I think it was World Beater won the Grade 1 at Saratoga, and I think Jaime had missed his flight or something. There was some issue with the planes where he didn't make it there. And then when he won the Street Sense, Incredibolt, when he won the Street Sense, I believe you were already out in California for the Breeders' Cup at that time. You guys were together for the Holy Bowl. It didn't go well. Were you nervous that you guys were going to be together at the Virginia Derby? And what was it like to finally get to celebrate
investigative
together?
Journalism? Let's go.
No, I love how deep you're digging into this. This is good. No, so actually, the Holy Bull was the first race I even saddled the horse in. Like I wasn't present for any of his first three races. So when he ran up the track as he did, I was like, all right, I better just go to the Bahamas or something for the next one. But yeah, no, you can be as superstitious as you want. I'm not sure the horses really realize it one way or the other. So put the tack on for a win for Incredibolt finally. So I won't take the Kentucky Derby off, I guess.
All right, so we got one last thing we definitely have to ask Riley about. Carlos Morales, a friend of both of ours. We really think a lot of young Carlos Morales, dominating Agente's 305. And you did a bilingual interview with him after the Virginia Derby, young Riley. And I the only question I have is this. So my wife wants my kids to study Spanish in school. And all I ever say to her, Riley, is no, if they're going to learn Spanish, they'll learn it in a kitchen. They'll learn it, out in the world, because so many of our fellow Americans are Hispanohablantes, right? So like that part, no problem. Did you learn Spanish in school, or did you learn it the right way at the barn?
Both, actually. So I started taking Spanish in 6th grade, and I took it all the way through high school, took it all the way through college. And so I learned to like speak very formally and write very formally, but it was only when I started working full time at the barn after college that you're basically that's your first language essentially. So that's when things really started clicking, and I got a good foundation in the classroom, but it became, I wouldn't call myself fluent, but
how valuable is it? How valuable is it for what you do? It's got to be incredibly valuable, frankly.
Oh, it's paramount. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I didn't know it. And not only is it good, to be in the barn and communicate with everybody and let them know exactly how you want things done, with your staff and your riders and everything. But, I think it's good, just in general, so you can, go experience other countries and get around. I went to Argentina pretty recently, and it was a total breeze, just like walking around town, chatting with people. And so there's a lot of benefits to it, and it's really not that hard to learn, to be honest.
Boom, Riley Mott. Let's go. I'm all about it. All right. Well, we will see you back in Louisville, I'm sure, in a few weeks. Riley, best of luck with everything. Safe trips, safe training, all the things for all of your horses there. Are you going to be up here on Saturday by chance? You got a couple in a Turfway. We're going to be kicking around.
Unfortunately not. I'll probably be down here in Florida. I saw the forecast. So Yeah.
It
So
was 75 yesterday, Riley. It snowed on me today. I don't like it. It is what it is.
I have not looked at the forecast yet, so don't tell me. Let me live out this week, not expecting whatever it's going to be.
I'm going to be thinking of you guys this weekend. That's for sure.
We appreciate it very much. Well, I'm going to bet on both his horses if he's not going to be here. I mean, that's essentially how it works.
Exactly. Yes. That's the angle.
He's
That's
just trying to get wins here. It has nothing to do with the weather. It's just he's trying to get some more wins.
Moral compass set to W's. That's exactly right. Well, Riley, we appreciate you. Be well. I'm sure we'll catch up with you down the line.
All right, guys. Been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Riley. There you go. Riley Mott with us. Incredibolt, of course, winner of the Virginia Derby this year. Do you know what's in Charlottesville? I'm going to put you in a terrible spot. Guy who grew up, went to college in the ACC.
I do not.
That's the University of Virginia, man. Come on now.
Right.
One of the grand campuses of any public university in this country. Not even
You're
close.
Just super in basketball mindset right now.
You're not wrong. 3 seed this year, the Virginia Cavaliers. They drew a tough 2 in Iowa State, though. However, 2 things came out of Charlottesville. Do you know what they are?
Riley Mott's wife.
Number 1. So 3 things, I guess. The University of Virginia, but number 3, the most famous jam band since the Grateful Dead, Dave Matthews Band. How about that?
There you go.
There you go. That's for us old heads. There you go. By the way, I like the idea of us moving forward, asking the follow-up, like, what is a triple blah, blah, blah for. I think we should.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, but I think if you listen to this show or watch this show, however you hang out with us, by the way, give us a review, give us the 5 stars, give us the comments. We want to hear from you for sure. If you watch this show and you have these people on and we're able to take you behind the screen, behind the scenes with a Riley Mott, with a Brad Cox, with others that we've had on this show, even a Nick Casado last week in ownership, we should ask those kinds of questions.
Oh, yeah.
Because even I'm like, what's a triple? It'd be like,
I had never heard that term before.
He just dropped it very casually. And what I don't want us to do is gloss over. I don't want this show to become so deep in the weeds that even we can't find our way out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, this should be an approachable show. And so I appreciate Riley slowing down to explain that to us boneheads as we roll along here on BloodHorse Monday. The training up to Derby thing, does it bother you, or is it just the nature of when he qualified? I think it's mostly just the nature of when he qualified.
Yeah, it's the nature of when he qualified. And honestly, I don't love the 7 weeks going into the race, but I would be more concerned if he ran the race 7 weeks, then ran the race 3 weeks later, and then was coming back 4 weeks.
I'm with you.
I would feel worse about that.
I'm with you.
It's funny because, Barbaro was the horse that I got into the sport with. He was kind of the big one that really brought me into the sport. And when he won the Derby, the big thing with him was, he won the Holy Bull on February 4th. He won the Florida Derby on April 1st. And then he was going into the Kentucky Derby. And that was like, oh my God, horse can't do that. Have that much rest between his final prep and the Derby, to have only those 2 races in that time span. And I think when he won the Derby, the amount of time between the Florida Derby and the Kentucky Derby was the most, I think it was the longest layoff going into the Derby since Needles in 1956. Oh, okay. So like back then in 2006, like that was a ridiculous thing that he was doing that, and that he was successful doing that. Now, I mean, the final round 100-point prep races start 6 weeks out, and they end 4 weeks out. So now it's expected. 7 weeks out, the way that horses are trained now, the way that they are prepared for the races now, I don't have any concerns with that. No.
I agree with you. Think about the Arkansas Derby just a couple of years ago was 3 weeks out.
Yep.
And that's 5.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even go to a month. They just went 5.
It's one thing if he's coming in 7 weeks out, and, if everybody else still followed the old way of running, like 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, but everybody's going to be in kind of the same boat now.
That seems right.
There's very likely, there's either going to be one horse that comes out of the Lexington and is coming off of 3 weeks rest, or the most recent anyone has run going into the Derby is going to be 4 weeks. So I don't think the 4 weeks to 7 weeks is going to make that huge of a difference, especially when he's already got a lot of things in his corner, like experience over the racetrack and stuff like that. I think he'll be fine with the 7 weeks.
I'll be live up there along with Sean ahead of the races there at Turfway Park this weekend. You can find me on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. Sean, of course, doing our Blood Horse coverage up there as well. But of course, part of this as well. Go ahead. What's that?
Well, I just wanted to, before we moved on from the Virginia Derby, I did want to mention Riley talked about the experience of kind of the short little meet that they have there in March.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair enough.
And I have to say, I went to last year's Virginia Derby. Huge turnout for the crowd. It was the first time they ever done it. I was a little wondering going into this year
if it was like novelty last year kind of thing. Yeah, sure, fair enough.
Yes, last year, and what it would be
one
like
off.
this
It
year.
Snowed a lot.
Yeah,
Right,
it was still awesome. Yeah, I mean,
They're into it there, man.
Yeah, they had over I think it was over 9,000 people. I forget the exact number, hundreds after the 9,000, but it was over 9,000 people that were there, and I mean that place was packed, and it was a great experience to be there. You could feel the excitement throughout the day. The crowd was into it. You know, it was one of those when Travis Stone announced, you know, the horses are in the gate for the Virginia Derby, and a cheer goes up, and then the gate opens, and a cheer goes up again when the gate opens. It was just a fantastic experience. So the both Virginia Derbies over the last 2 years. I've never been to Colonial during their actual meet,
Right.
so I'm still gonna have to do that. But at least going for the Virginia Derby meet, have to recommend it because it's such a fun experience. They do a great job with that event.
We are wondering which Brittany Russell runner will try to make the Derby. It looks like it will be Taj Mahal trying the Wood Memorial, which you will be at in a couple of weeks. The last one there at Aqueduct, the 101st running of the Wood Memorial. Taj Mahal, obviously 2 for 2 in his career. Last ran in a stakes race at Laurel Park, essentially on their Preakness Trail, but was so impressive that they're going to move him up north. Balboa, the other one in training there. I think we'll see him in the Tessio trying to qualify for the Preakness, and frankly, he'll be a favorite in the Tessio and should be. But it'll be interesting. Taj Mahal, and what's fascinating this year is they'll move him up to the Wood Memorial to try to go to the Derby. Guess where the Preakness is if it doesn't work out? It's right back at Laurel where he's 2 for 2.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting, right? And so in a year where we're at Laurel for the Preakness, some of those more local runners, I think, are actually very interesting candidates to hit the board, or I don't know, pull the ultimate upsets, the old deputed testimony 1984 kind of curse that we got going in Maryland. But I'm fascinated by this move. But if you just watched his last race, it's not a question that he was easily the best in the Miracle Wood, that 1-turn mile there. He gets to try the mile in an eighth up there. We've seen the Remsen be incredibly important. Last year's Wood was run as fast as Frosted's. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll get something interesting out of New York City. But let's bring in Olivia Newman. We'll do that after you hear about the OBS March sale of 2-year-olds in training. That was last week, man. BloodHorse's Olivia Newman was in Ocala for the sale. She'll join us in just a moment. The OBS March Recap is presented by Gainesway, home of the exciting first crop stallion Drain the Clock. Making their impression on the track and the sales ring at OBS, you can get yourself your own son or daughter of Grade 1 winner Drain the Clock, who stands at Gainesway for $10,000 in 2026.
Drain the clock, Jackie's Warrior, drain the clock by a head.
1,000,001, hit it in 1,000,001, 1,100,000, hit it in 75,700. Mike, 700,000, 70, 570,000. Thank you.
1.1 million, 570,000, a 700K in the middle there. Not too bad for a freshman sire, Olivia Newman, who joins us from BloodHorse and BloodHorse.com. Of course, our sales editor over there. Olivia, how are you? Welcome back from Florida. It's snowing.
Yeah, it's definitely a change from when I was there.
I'm so sorry we did this to you, but thank you for joining us today. Hey, how was the environment, the excitement? Boy, these sales, they have their own energy to them, don't they?
Yeah, it was really exciting. The energy was great. Record OBS March sale. I think the first 2-year-old sale of the year can sometimes, bring a little apprehension for the consigners, wondering if they're going to get the return on the yearlings that they bought. But so many were rewarded. So it was a really great sale.
Yeah, you mentioned that record sale there, and we saw such a strong yearling market last year, and now seeing that kind of carry over to the 2-year-olds here. What were some of those records that we saw fall here at OBS?
Well, there's a record gross that was previously passed. In 2023, it was a tie for the number of 7-figure purchases at the sale. Oh, wow. There was a Nyquist filly that sold for $2 million. That was a lot. Last year's OBS March sale, the record was Brandt, who brought $3 million. Ended up winning the Grade 1 Delmar Futurity and was a finalist for the Eclipse Award. So it was a great sale.
That's really interesting. Yeah, $2 million for a filly, man. I always see these numbers and I think, goodness gracious, hope she turns out great, man. But yeah, these Nyquist babies, man, people love them. Yeah,
people really do love the Nyquist fillies. What can you tell us about that $2 million horse?
Well, first, Nyquist is such a kind of tried and true stallion. He had 10 grade 1 winners in 2025. He's had 11 grade 1 juveniles from 6 crops. He was a champion 2-year-old himself, son of a champion 2-year-old and Uncle Mo. So he really, I think, gets a early kind of precocious horse. And that filly, she breezed furlong in 9-3, which was the co-fastest time during the Undertack show. And she was consigned by Weaver Tree Stables. Kieran has done so well with his progeny at Nyquist. Boyd Racing purchased her, and they've really made a splash in the past year. They have a part in Splendora, who just won the Beholder Mile. They bought a filly out of Paradise Woods last year at the Fasig-Tipton Saratoga sale for $2.6 million. So they're really developing a nice roster of fillies.
Yeah, and we'll definitely probably see that then turn into not just great fillies on the racetrack, but a good broodmare band after the fact. Right. On the colt side of things as well, I believe it was Hip 416 was our top selling colt here, going for 1.85 million. What can you tell us about him? A son of Into Mischief.
Yeah, so son of Into Mischief, 7-time leading general sire. He was purchased for Frank Fletcher. Donato Lani signed, on behalf of Frank, and said the horse is just really fast and kind of looked like a classic horse. He breezed 9-4 during the Undertack show, and he's going to go to Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott, who's had a lot of luck with Into Mischief colts. Most recently, the 2025 Horse of the Year Sovereignty. So, hoping maybe this is their next star.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with
seems like it works out once in a while. Yeah, in the bot barn. Yeah, right. Exactly.
That seems to be the hot hand. Into Mischiefs and Bill Mott's barn.
And Olivia Newman with us from BloodHorse. The Into Mischiefs, the Nyquist, we're used to hearing those names. Any names near the top of either sales price or just sort of volume that you were surprised to see? When I see Corniches, people like Corniche for sure, but to see sort of the sales prices attached to a Corniche kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Anyone stand out like that for you, Olivia?
I'm not sure they were so much of a surprise. Maybe Nashville, did really well. He jumped up as a good 2-year-old sire. His yearlings were bought fairly cheap, but they were really rewarded at the sale. I think there's a great group of first crop sires, Corniche, Nashville, Jackie's Warrior, Drain the Clock. It was really impressive. All his horses at the Undertack show. So they're all ones to keep an eye on.
I was texting with Nick Casado after our show last week because literally he won the big cap with his horse, and he's a guy who grew up at Santa Anita, Olivia. And then he Drain the Clock just blows up the OBS sale, and all I texted him was, "Who's having a better 3 days than you?" I mean, goodness gracious, just a spectacular showing for Drain the Clock. What was it about his babies that people really took to in this sale?
Well, other than being really fast. A lot of people said they galloped out well, and Drain the Clock was a sprinter, but I think a lot of these horses look like they can go longer distances too. Pedro Lands, he buys for KAS Stables. He purchased 2 of them, including the top for 1.1 million and another one for 700,000. He just said they all look like athletes. They're really excited. They're going to stay here in the United States. But you also saw other big heavy hitter names getting them, St. Elias Stables bought one for 570, and that was one of the ones that equaled a track record at OBS for a quarter mile, racing in 20-1. So I think everybody's trying to get their hands on a Drain the Clock.
Yeah, Drain the Clock stands at Gainesway, who's presenting this OBS recap for $10,000 this season. So get in on that before it goes up. Because,
I remember when not this time was like exactly. 25K or something. Yeah, right. Get in now with Drain the Clock for sure.
When we were talking to Nick on the show last week, his slam dunk racing campaign Drain the Clock throughout his racing career. We were kind of talking about how he was one of those names that we weren't really thinking about being at this level until we saw the Undertack show, and as you mentioned, several of his runners really impressing there. He had the $1.1 million colt, the New York bred sell here at the sale that you mentioned, and is he kind of maybe Louie just mentioned not this time one of these horses that's starting off at a lower price? Can you see him really kind of taking off here based off of what you heard from the buyers?
I definitely, and a lot of consigners, were obviously really impressed as well. Tristan Demerick of Demerick Sales, who consigned that colt, said he's been a really big Drain the Clock fan from day one and really impressed, with how they are physically. And I think that's going to carry, on the track.
You talk about record numbers, Olivia, and Olivia Newman with us from BloodHorse and our sales team there. We're seeing record numbers over and over. You talk about a record gross, all those things. Do you expect that to continue with how the taxes are certainly, set up currently, the big, beautiful bill? We hear about that quite often when we hear about the sales and the increasing sales prices. Do you think that we're kind of in a spot? Are we starting to peak, or do you think this is going to keep going up?
I think it is going to carry, almost every sale I covered last year. I feel like I write an article and here's another record sale. The yearling market was so strong, and last year's Keeneland sale was the highest grossing thoroughbred auction worldwide. I do think it's going to continue. April is generally a really strong sale anyway. It gives some of those horses, an extra 30 days to kind of blossom. And like you said, the big, beautiful bill, I talked to quite a few people last week that mentioned the benefits of that and bringing in more buyers who, are willing to invest. So I do think it's going to carry.
Now, the April sale coming up next month, it's kind of two similar sales back to back. What can we expect to maybe be different at this upcoming sale in April, and what can we expect to be the same?
There is a little bit longer under tax show, and the catalog actually just came out, I think like 20 minutes ago, and there's over 1,000 horses cataloged. This sale, historically has produced so many good runners. She's So Spicy went through the ring there. Silent Tactic, who's on the Derby trail, Nisos, a lot of grade 1 winners. I think we may have more 7-figure sales.
Okay.
But I do think it's going to generally kind of stay the same. There's competition for people to get racehorses. And Eric Mitchell, our Bloodstock editor, did a deep dive, into that OBS March sale. And, metrics were up, everywhere, even in, private sales. So to me, I think that just means, people are really trying to get a racehorse, and they may not have got one at March, and they're going to be shopping at April.
You can find that deep dive from Eric Mitchell on bloodhorse.com.
There you go. All right. Well, Olivia, we appreciate it very much. Safe travels and all the things. I hope you took in some sun before you have to get back to whatever the heck we're doing with the weather up here in Kentucky. But it'll be nice to see you next time we run into you. And thanks for your coverage of the sale. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
No problem at all. There you go. Olivia Newman joining us from BloodHorse. See, this is where you and I failed. We're sitting in a studio and it's like snowing outside, and we could be covering sales and be awesome and be in Florida, but we're not awesome when we're not in Florida. So there you go.
Well, we could have stood outside for the show today and done it in the snow.
That's a terrible idea. What a horrible idea. Oh, man.
I don't want to hear you complain. You had your California sun last week. You had that.
I was shining, wasn't I?
You were
shining.
That's hard.
You got a dome like this.
Yeah, it's hard not to when you don't have any hair to block the shine.
That part, yeah. There's no blocking the shine here. That's Louie, Rabaut, Sean Ocala taking out with you. Thanks to Olivia. Thanks to Riley for joining us here on the program today. These are my favorite shows, where we get to talk to someone who's on the ground, racing, training, jockey, whatever, and then we get to talk sales and like what the trends are, what the next thing might be. I love these shows. Yes. All these shows. I love this time of year. We're talking Derby preps. We're talking like who are the next horses? Who's the next sire? Like that kind of stuff. Good stuff. Riley Mott's nice enough to slow down, explain to us like gallop outs, that kind of stuff. 2 Derby preps this weekend. You and I will be at Turfway Park. I think betting wise, the Turfway card more interesting. But as far as Derby contenders or Oaks contenders, where do you see more this weekend?
That's a really good question. I've been on the record on this show a couple of times saying I've not been the biggest fan of the Louisiana races this year. I haven't really thought they were the strongest outside of Paladin. Obviously he came in and handled business. And
let's be very clear about this. You are talking about the Derby, not the Oaks, because you do like Bella Ballerina a
Oaks
lot.
Trail is a completely different story.
Right. Okay.
But for the Derby Trail, yeah.
But this follows, because if you think about New Orleans, we had Kevin Kilroy on a couple weeks ago ahead of the start of the real, heavy races down there. I think it was ahead of the Risen Star. And essentially what we went through was, hey, can you talk about the Oaks history in New Orleans? That's where the stars are. And by the way, that's who cares? Like, that's great. Like the Fairgrounds Oaks matters every year. It matters every year. And it is very strange that the longest of the Derby preps in North America is not one that is very predictive of winning the race. Yeah. Right. Even and you think of the 6 weeks, in the modern game that we talked about earlier as being something that trainers would not mind, right? Obviously full gate for the Louisiana Derby, so it ain't like they care. Same for the Ruby. But if you had to pick a horse to like finish top like 5 in the Derby, would you pick one out of the Louisiana Derby or out of the Ruby? I'm going to tell you, I'm going Ruby.
See, my one problem with the Ruby is it does look like this year we've got quite a few grass horses in this
There
race.
are 4 horses not nominated at all for the Triple Crown in the Ruby.
Interesting, yeah. But like you look at horses like Argos, Stark Contrast, and you got Turf Star. Gee, I wonder what surface that horse likes. Based off the name, it's like you see a couple of the
Turf Star, one of the non-nominated. You're correct.
Yeah, and
Black Hornet is in here as well for Brendan Walsh. Very clearly a turf horse.
Yeah,
Medici is not, but that's an Into Mischief who ran in Pasadena, like in the Pasadena, excuse me, not in Pasadena, next to Pasadena in Arcadia. We drove through Pasadena a couple times, but no, but I think some of these are like Mandela's bringing Medici to Turfway Park.
Yes.
I think that's to find out if the horse at all likes this. Look, it's a lot of money, number one. But also, I think it's just to find out, like, I think ownership is looking at him going, wait, I can get a horse from the Pasadena to the Derby?
Yeah.
Let's do that, right? And so I'm not saying that that's going to happen this weekend. I want to be really clear, but that's very clear the motivation.
Yeah. It's what, $777,000, the most exact purse on the Derby Trail. But so
what's better, the purse being 777 or stakes being spelled STAAKS? Which one's better?
The stakes being spelled that way.
It's high level, right? It's the troll of trolls.
Churchill Downs Incorporated, you can do a funny thing next year. You need to make the purse 777777. Just make it 7s all the way across. Add an extra 777 to that.
Well, why not 888888 for their new Octafecta?
That'll be next year.
That's Octafecta.
Oh, that would be a good point. Yeah.
See, I'm making jokes about wagers that I'll never play.
You got to play that. You got to at least try it one time. Because why not? It's fun. Just pick one horse in all 8 spots and hope you get lucky. Hit the random button on the machine.
If we're playing $1 wagers on every race just to do that, I'm with you on that. But that's just lottery ticket stuff.
Is it live this weekend? Let's do that this weekend.
It is live this weekend.
Yeah.
It was live as of last Friday, I think.
There you go.
You and I are playing the Octafecta.
Yeah, let's do.
You're going to wager at the racetrack while you're working.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do every single
first time
race.
for everything, y'all.
Every single race.
Okay.
I'm going to go up and I'm just going to hit the random button.
Okay.
Within reason.
Here's what we're going to do.
Like the 50
no. Here's what we're going to do.
On top of the
I like this a lot.
It,
Comment in the 13 races. Which one of us has more horses in the top 8 in the races that we're allowed to bet? Because are all the fields big enough? I can't tell them PPs right now. But we'll get into it later. But go ahead and comment in the comment section. Who's going to have a better Saturday at Turfway Park as far as the Octafecta thing? Sean or me?
I like that. Now I'm going to have to study the form.
Now I'm scared.
Now I'm not picking.
See, I don't like this now. I don't like this. See, Zach, you're going to show up. You're not going to handicap. You're just going to punch numbers and you're going to win. You're going to be my wife at the track.
That's the way to do it.
Which is this Pollo Pico spicy chicken? Yeah, that one. And it wins. It wins. It's like 6-1. It's like Julian Leperoux picking off a dirt sprint for no reason. It's my wife every year. It's unbelievable. She goes to the track like twice.
One of my best friends.
She brings a book and she picks 3 winners. It's embarrassing. I don't like it at all.
Well, one of my best friends went to his first Derby in 2022, and he was in the infield, and his mom gave him $100, and she told him, just go put $100 on whoever you want to. He's like, all right, I'm going to put it on the longest shot. And she's like, no, don't do that. Why would you waste it? Puts the $100 on a horse named Rich Strike. Wins the Kentucky Derby on that. Comes back next year after starting to work at the Kentucky Derby Museum. So he had a little bit more experience, but he didn't really do anything with handicapping. Hits the pick 6 the next year in the Derby. It's people like
I've heard about this guy.
Yeah. People like my friend Kyle, like your wife, that they just happen to hit when they
Kyle, go somewhere else. All right. So can't cuss on this program. All right. So but the Ruby and the Louisiana Derby. Let's start down south. We'll go to the Louisiana Derby first. Frankly, let's go. Who beats Bella Ballerina?
No one.
Is she lock of the weekend for you kind of stuff?
Yes, I would say so. Out of the horse, I feel pretty confident in her. I was a big fan of her win the Goldenrod last year, and I think now coming back second start of the year, I think she'll be a little stronger than last time. I like that she fought back in her last race. Love Your Neighbor is a very good horse. Wouldn't be I would not be shocked if she turned the tables, but I do think Bella Ballerina is going to prove to be one of the top class fillies in this division, so I think she gets the job done here, and then we'll have some exciting conversations going into the Oaks about her, Zany, Explora, and kind of where they're all going to fit against each other.
I am fascinated by Newtown Pike in this spot, and let me explain why. So she was second charging late in the Martha Washington at a mile and a 16th. And we're talking about a race here where she's going to get the same amount of distance, but because of the layout of Fairgrounds, she gets a break from the 2 and then she gets the long stretch. Here's why I'm interested. She's a McKinsey. You go win the Oaks, you got to run that stretch.
Yep.
Right. And this is Lindsay Schultz. She's an interesting case. Mostly Oaklawn, mostly Fairgrounds is where she is. And we see her kind of between those places this time of year, especially. I'm fascinated by this filly McKinsey there. Trap shot on the damn side. So a lot of question marks as far as what are we going to get out of the damn side as far as pedigree, but that McKinsey thing, because we're seeing so many of those run really well at a mile 16, that kind of thing. Can she get the mile and 8? I think actually the Fairgrounds Oaks is a really good stretch test for her because of the stretch there. I think it translates to Churchill, and I think frankly that's why the Fairgrounds Oaks is so good of a predictor of who runs well in the Kentucky Oaks.
Yes, and the long stretch, we have a long stretch at Churchill, that long stretch down there at Fairgrounds, that definitely seems to be helpful, and we've seen all the success coming out of Fairgrounds in recent years for sure.
I love Pavlovian, winner of the Sunland Derby, shipping from California for this race. Doug O'Neill, what a great attitude. I complimented Whit Beckman on a show for running Ocelli in the American Promise kind of this year in the Virginia Derby. I love this kind of stuff. I love that they're bringing this horse out here. He's a fascinating one. Obviously, the return of Chip Poncho, who just missed behind Paladin. Is Chip Poncho the favorite here?
I think he'll end up being. I don't know where he stacks up in the Derby conversation, but Steve Asmussen, just props to him. Every year he has that horse that competes in all 4 of these races down there at Fairgrounds. Yeah. Usually most of the time they end up getting into the Derby and running in it. And this is another one of those, keeping him sound, keeping him competitive in these races. He didn't run as well in the Lecomte as he did in the Gun Runner, but then he bounced back and ran pretty strong in the Risen Star. So just props to Steve Asmussen, props to Chip Poncho for being that horse that's consistently being part of this trail. Obviously Golden Tempo is another one who's consistently been part of this trail, winner of the Lecomte. We'll see if he can, that longer stretch will help him out with his closing kick this time. Was third.
Throwing the blinkers on. They clearly want to be a little bit closer. I think Shree does.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of changes that potentially will have with him. But I would say probably one of those two, maybe just from the experience of, we know that they've had success down there. We know that they've been part of this. I'd be expecting probably one of those two to take a lot of the money.
I imagine Baffert is shipping for the Louisiana Derby with Blacksmith alongside Pavlovian, because usually he sends at least 2 horses. Interesting to see him send 1. And so Blacksmith will make the trip. Florent Giroux, who is riding in Santa Anita right now, was aboard this horse for his maiden breaker at a mile, will be aboard. I will tell you there's another horse in here, though. And Sean, I need your Derby knowledge to help me out here. Emerging Market will break on the outside. Son of Candy Ride. Okay. Only one race in his life, a mile 40 at Tampa. Okay. How many horses have won the Kentucky Derby in their 3rd career start?
Oh,
is it 0?
Somebody did.
Okay. All right. So I bring this up because I think I remember like 1882 or something in my head.
Well, now, that's Apollo. Obviously, we had the curse of Apollo for many, many years.
Was that 1882?
Yeah. Where he won the race without racing as a 2-year-old.
Right. So obviously, Emerging Market would have to do that. Breaks his maiden the 7th of
we've seen
February.
Justify and Mage break that in recent years. So
boom. All right.
Yeah. Now the
Emerging Market, though, let's get it all out there. This horse to me screamed when he broke his maiden, Chad Brown Preakness horse. Okay, it really did. I just assumed they would like run him in allowance somewhere and then run him in a stake like the Lexington or something, then bring him to the Preakness. Right? Yeah. I'm not kidding. Okay, they choose this spot instead and they book Flavian Pratt again.
Yeah.
To me,
that's a big sign of faith.
They are not. They are Klarovich. This is KS. Olivia just talked about them. To me, this is the horse of the weekend. As far as any of the preps, what does Emerging Market do? Because we don't know much about him. We do not know much about him. Again, Candy Ride on the sire side, Empire Maker on the dam side. That's a horse that can get the distance. It's a horse they debuted at a mile 70 or mile 40. Sorry, and I'm so used to mile 70.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as my mind has been working as you've been going through.
Sorry. Yes.
I want to say that it has not been done. Okay. Winning the Derby in the 3rd start, because I'm Justify obviously was in his 4th start. He broke his maiden, won the allowance, won the Santa Anita Derby.
Yep.
I want to say Taba He broke his maiden, then won the Santa Anita Derby, and I think
was that only his third race?
I think the Derby was his third race, and I think I remember people talking about the fact that he had never won, or that a horse had never won in just their third start. Now, it is possible when you go back to the 1800s and the early 1900s, back in the time frame where for a lot of horses,
good on you. He finished 12th in his third start in the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, that very good second in the Haskell before winning the Pennsylvania Derby. Yes.
So
he had a really good fall.
I want to say
because he won the Malibu that year too. He had a really good year.
I want to say when he was running in it, that people were saying that no horse had ever done that before.
Okay.
Because I don't remember there being like another horse attached to it where he was the first horse since this one to try to do it. But
I bring all of it up because this is different stuff. It is just interesting to see Chad Brown go to this route. But the other part of this is how often do we hear from trainers there's just no 3-year-old allowances? So that's why, for example, Potente ends up in the San Felipe because that's where there's a route for 3-year-olds out in California. I wonder if it's a little bit of this, but frankly, I gotta think Chad Brown could find a race for this guy. And so it's just interesting to me. All of the numbers on this horse on his debut are off the page awesome. And so the fact that they're putting straight into this race tells me that either they agree with you on the Louisiana path to the Derby, which might be part of it, but also they think they got something here.
Yeah.
And mile 3/16 is no slouch of a second race.
Yeah, exactly.
Big boy stuff.
And he did run the mile 40 at Tampa, so he did at least already have experience around 2 turns. But yeah, as far as my disclaimer on whether or not my claims are correct, you do have the 1800s and the 1900s, the early part of them, where the Derby was the first race of the year for a lot of horses. So it is possible that maybe a horse had run twice as a 2-year-old and then came back in their first start of the year. What was Leonidas? Leonidas.
Do you see what I've done to him, people? Do you see this right now? The struggle bus that Sean Collins is now on.
Let me see.
The day before St. Patrick's Day, when his people celebrate the chasing of serpents out of Ireland, you're suffering away with the Leonidas background.
He ran once. So Leonidas ran once as a 2-year-old because I remember he didn't run a lot as a 2-year-old. We're talking about the 1883.
He's the year after him. Yes, right. Yep.
I want to say.
All right.
I want to say
we are
that the Derby was
143 years.
Let me see.
We're 143 years into this. And that's how unusual it is. That's what I'm getting at. That's why I think this horse is the wild card of wild cards. So I don't know what Chad Brown's thinking. Other than my horse got a chance to win the Louisiana Derby, at least get a good check. That's what I know. And get Derby points. Because, a second place finisher, he probably gets, a $200,000 check and 50 points. He's probably in the Derby if he wants to be.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
So Leonidas won 10 races as a 3-year-old in a 7-week time period.
Everyone. How many?
10 races. All 10 of his wins as a 3-year-old came in stakes over a 7-week time period.
Even Wade Lucas is like, that might be a little too much. That might be a little too much.
I want to say, looking at, it's
second start ever, maybe.
Yeah, none of these races strike me as one that would have been before the Derby. Maybe the Blue Ribbon.
Okay.
But they don't have dates on these races, so I'll have to go look. If it was anyone, it would probably be him.
How many of those were like a mile and a half, by the way?
Well, that's the thing. The Derby was a mile and a half then. Yeah. So if that was his first or if that was his second or third career start, he was doing that at a mile and a half coming out of either one prep race or no prep races since running once as a 2-year-old. But so I'm going to have to double check on that. So maybe we'll remember to bring it up next week. But if there was anyone, I would say it's probably Leonidas.
So by the way, we're in an era in horse racing where people want to live in the negative. If you're on social media, they want to live in the negative. They want to do those things. Riley did something really good for us earlier in the show, which was he brought up that Colonial is establishing new traditions and that the people around there are into it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we reassess how we do horse racing in this country and places like Colonial continue to pop up, it's a great thing. I bring that up in a very different way about the Jeff Ruby Stakes. How many of the horses, and please don't look, do you think in this field, didn't start on synthetic or turf coming into this? Started on dirt coming into this race.
Oh, in their last race?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I haven't looked, so this will be a pure guess.
And you're going to laugh at who it is?
So that tells me it's one.
Okay.
You didn't let me guess.
It's Stop the Car.
Wow.
It's Stop the Car Stark Contrast, turf. Argos, turf. Brave Force.
Wasn't he entered in the Battaglia and then scratched?
Brave Force, synthetic. Chaos Agent, synthetic. Maximum Prime, synthetic. Medici, turf. Black Hornet, turf. 2 Out Hero, synthetic. Baytown Dreamer, synthetic. Full Effort, synthetic. Turf Star, of course, turf.
No, really?
But what I'm getting at is we are in an era where we are reorganizing in horse racing. The Ruby is now something that all of these connections pointed to.
Mm-hmm.
This is a $750,000 plus race in March on a surface that if you have a turf horse, they aren't running turf races for 3-year-olds right now at $750,000. They're just not. Added bonus, you can be in the darn Kentucky Derby if you win this thing.
And if you decide not to, you got a good prep for the American turf on the same day for a grade of 1.
$1.5 million in that thing.
Yep.
Churchill just announced. I'm just telling you, this is a race that this is how things start to shift. And when Riley talks about, hey, Virginia Derby, timing made sense, surface made sense. These things get inserted into our schedules and things move around. It is interesting to watch these developments and how places have to adapt and everything else. But the Ruby has turned into a fascinating race as to who's shooting toward it, who is pointing to this race, because so much money, that turf angle with the synthetic, etc. But you could qualify for the Derby.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still qualify for the Derby, and that's what you're obviously seeing with Brendan Walsh here with Stop the Car. It's just a fascinating mix of all those things.
Yes.
It really is. And it's great. It is look, Kentucky Downs kind of feels this way to me too. We kind of have Turfway in March, and then we got Kentucky Downs in the late summer, and they sort of bookend everybody kind of shooting for those things. Because if you got a kind of an in-between horse, you can kind of figure out the synthetic, something like that. It is fascinating to watch these things. I'll be honest, I think a turf horse is going to win the Ruby this weekend, and we're probably not going to get a great runner in the Kentucky Derby
Tell that to Animal Kingdom.
Out of these kinds of races, or Two Phils, or Rich Strike, or Seize the Gray,
Well,
or all
those
the
three,
things.
those three had experience on dirt before, but
Fair enough.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom would like to argue with you as far as the
That was
that's a turf horse.
the old synthetic horse at Turfway. It's not this one. I have reasons. There you go. The lighter stuff, of course, up there. Sean and I will be up there. We'll probably do a little bit of a recording after the day. Throw it on the next episode. Makes sense?
I'd say so. And we'll probably also will have something up on BloodHorse's social medias the day of the race. So if you want to hear us talk a little bit more about the Jeff Ruby, once you and I have a chance to really kind of sit down and dive into this field over the next couple of days. If you want to hear our thoughts and opinions, we'll probably have a video up on the BloodHorse social channels on Saturday. And apologies to everybody who had to listen to my mind start churning through Derby information.
I disagree. That is part of the experience of this show.
Are you impressed that after all that, I somehow pulled out Leonidas out of my brain somewhere to be like, that might have been him?
I don't know that impressed is the word. Terrified, scared for my personal safety, those kinds of things.
You just gotta let the mind churn for a little bit, and if people could see the information that was going through my mind as you were continuing to talk,
you had to think, and it was not easy for you. And I'm glad that you were able to get through it.
Yes.
Check out the magazine.
I'm out of practice. I don't give tours anymore. About
what? You had to go deep in the old
not that
Rolodex.
That would have been on the tour information.
I would make a joke about storage, but kids, you don't know what storage is. And so he's Sean Collins. Everything's digital for him. It's not digital. The magazine, it comes to your house. Go check it out at the QR code.
Digitally.
But of course, you know what? Everything is available digitally at bloodhorse.com. Of course, yes.
You
The magazine
get the
tab.
digital copy, but get that hard copy.
Yeah, the physical one's awesome. And of course, the Stallion Registry comes alongside. Just got to check the box. Use the QR code at the bottom there. If you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify, again, we'd appreciate a review as well. 5-star reviews and comments help people find this show. We would certainly love them to find it alongside you. He's Sean. I'm Louie. We're at the Jeff Ruby Stakes this weekend. How does Sean take his stake? Find out on Monday. The Blood Horse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save Blood Horse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.